What's going on, guys? It is Tyson the Trainer here, back with another episode of Sports Talk. Now, today's Sports Talk, we're going to be talking about gaining muscle as an athlete, right? So if you're an athlete who needs to put on body weight or you want to improve your performance, you might be moving up weight classes or whatever it's going to be, it's going to be quite, a good little experience for you to be able to try and put on some body weight. Now, ideally, we want to put on a majority of lean mass. We don't want to be putting on any fat mass because, who wants to gain fat? If you are someone who's like a powerlifter and weight is going to move weight, then yeah, you can put it on a little bit quicker. But for most people, we want to make sure that we're trying to, gain slow enough. Slow and low is the way to grow, ideally. Like the slower, the better. Because the slower you do this, the better it is overall that you're going to be able to gain muscle mass. Just because you're taking it slower overall, and there's only so much muscle potential we can gain each week, each month, each year based on our genetics. And we've just found that the slower it is, the more likely you are to do it. Right? So, firstly, if you're going to be in a calorie surplus, you want to make sure you are in a calorie surplus daily. All right? The reason we need to be in a calorie surplus daily is because every day we need to give our body the nutrients it needs to gain muscle mass. Because tissue, and muscle tissue, is expensive for the body to make. And it's always going to have priorities first. The heart to beat, the lungs to fucking pump, the blood to go around your system, your legs to walk, breathing, all those things. You're just going to have essentials that you would need to tick off every day. Then we have the exercise component, which we're going to need calories for. Then we have our non-exercise activity, which we need calories for. So our body's going to do all these things and throw in all the nutrients over here. And it's like, I'm not going to make muscle mass if I don't have to, because I need to do this first. So if we have extra calories, then the body's going to be like, all right, sweet, I'm going to gain some muscle with this stuff because I have the extra nutrients. So a daily surplus is going to be the most important thing, because every day you're giving your body nutrients to gain. Imagine if you were in a maintenance phase for 5 days and then you're in a surplus for 2 days, all right? You're only giving your body 2 days to grow muscle mass, okay? And again, there's only so much muscle mass that body can gain in 2 days. So after those 2 days, if you've gone 500 calories over for those 2 extra days, you may have only gained out of 100 of those calories muscle mass and 400 of those calories fat. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure we're in a surplus on a daily basis. So Monday to Sunday, every day, being in a calorie surplus, right? Now, ideally, we want to be gaining about 0.25 to 0.5% of our body weight a week. Ideally on the lower side, because the lower we can keep our weight, the slower we can keep it going up, again, the more likely we are going to be just gaining muscle mass overall in a slower process. So with this being said, based on the other videos I've talked about, you've calculated your TDEE, you've included your exercise calories and stuff like that. So if you're burning 4,200 calories a day, or you're burning 2,800 calories a day, whatever you're going to be burning, we're going to increase that number by about 10%, okay? 10% is a good enough jump to start seeing something moving on the scale and just see things going in the right direction overall, all right? So if you're burning 4,000 calories a day, you get an extra 400 calories a day. Sounds like a big jump, and it is. But again, we want to start seeing things move in the right direction. And if you're someone who has a higher energy output, what's going to happen at first is you're probably not going to gain a lot of weight, because your body is going to learn how to use that energy for excess body heat, to be burnt off with food, to be burnt off by pushing your intensity harder in exercise. We're quite good. Our body's quite good at being able to adapt to these extra calories and use them for energy. Overall, you eventually will start gaining weight, but it's kind of good just to have that 10% initial jump, right? And this is going to be context dependent, because if you're a lighter individual, you'll be burning less calories. You're smaller, it'll actually take less to be able to gain, right? So let's say again, you've increased your calories by 10%. Predominantly, all these calories want to be coming from carbohydrates, because carbohydrates is going to be the fuel for your fire. Carbohydrates are anabolic. Carbohydrates are going to help push nutrients to the muscles, and carbohydrates are your highest chance of being able to gain muscle mass, all right? So we always keep our protein at 2 grams per kilogram of body weight, always. We don't need to change that. We keep our fats at that minimum 0.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. If you want to have more fats, you're definitely allowed to, but we want to try and bias our carbohydrates to be able to push ourselves harder, because again, carbohydrates will fuel your intensity. They'll be able to push you in the harder in the gym, and they're just going to more likely carry over and have a higher chance of muscle mass. So you can have more fats if you want, because at a point it's going to be so hard to eat food, you're going to want to increase your fat intake just to make it more satiation and enjoyable, but predominantly biasing carbohydrates would be the ideal goal. So you've done that, you've increased your calories, you've increased your carbohydrates. Go and take your photos and take your progress. So do our measurements and things like that. Do our skin fold calipers, whatever you want to do. So we have a starting base. Okay. Now from here, we're just going to watch how we go over the next few weeks. If your weight starts to climb up in the right direction and you're gaining about 0.25 to 0.5% of your body weight a week, you're in the sweet spot. Keep going with what you're doing. If your weight goes up the first week, it's always going to go up in the first week because you're just going to have more food in your body. You'll have more food in your stomach. You'll have more probably like top down muscle glycogen now. You'll be holding more water from a little bit of extra carbohydrates. So now we're going to watch how we go. After that first week, if the weight continues to slowly climb, we're on the right track. If the weight isn't climbing, we need to increase a little bit more. So I would say from there, jump up by another 100 calories at a time. So now we're just going to do 100 calorie jumps to kind of monitor how we go, and we're going to start to increase that way, all right? We don't want to do anything crazy straight off the bat and keep trying to jump up by 10%. During this time, like I said, you should have taken your measurements, your photos and stuff like that. They're not going to move up as quickly as it does go down with weight loss, all right? So they're going to take their time to move up. What we're looking for here is making sure you're gaining in the right places, okay? So taking your body measurements, if you're doing this yourself, your waist, your middle thigh, your bicep, your shoulders, your chest, your glutes, any areas you want to, take. If you're a female, take it wherever you want to take it, glutes, thighs and stuff like that. If you're a male, around the shoulders. Anywhere you want to do your measurements, but we want to look at where we're going to be, most likely going to hold fat and mass, okay? Because the scale is going up, and for me, if my waist isn't going up, but the scale is going up, I'm not concerned, because I'm quite sure that I'm going to be gaining muscle mass, If where we store adipose tissue or body fat starts to go up, then we know we have an issue because we're gaining too quickly. Usually it'll be quite easy to correlate, because if you're gaining quite quickly, the adipose tissue, like the fat, is going to go up around the stomach for a guy. If you're gaining slower, it's not really going to go up that much. It might go up by a centimeter every 3 to 4 weeks, which at the end of the day, if you did a bulking season and it was for 6 months and you gained 4 to 6 centimeters around your waist, that's not a lot, especially if you've gained overall, you gained 6 or 7 kilos. That's pretty decent. So again, we just want to keep those things in check. And if the waist or anything starts going up too quickly and the weight's going up too quickly, we just bring it back by a little bit, Again, take away 100 to 200 calories and just kind of keep it on the slower end. So with this, then we can monitor our progress over time. Based on what type of athlete you are, you will start to probably perform better, a lot better. But if you're getting heavier, your time, based on, if you're trying to do something that's a little bit quicker, may actually slow down, because now you're a heavier individual. Heavier mass is harder to move, could be slower, but your performance will slowly catch up too. So I can run a faster 5-minute K at 90. I can run a faster 5 kilometer time now at 90 kilograms than I could at 67 kilos. So, muscle will fuel the performance and make you feel better, and just overall. So what we're going to be doing is trying to gain for a certain amount of time, right? Ideally, give yourself 3 months. The more, the better, right? Based on your goal. Is it a weight class, whatever it's going to be, if you got to get to this, or if it's just trying to improve overall muscle mass. Give yourself 3 to 6 months of continuously trying to gain during this time, right? So again, slow and low is the way to grow. Every time you hit a plateau, which means after 2 weeks of no weight increase, no measurement changes, you're sticking to your nutrition and your activity hasn't increased, so you're not doing extra energy expenditure, then you're going to increase by another 100 calories or 150 calories to start trying to see that scale go up. Again, we're going to increment. Every time we have that plateau, we try and increment by 100 calories. We try and just slowly keep pushing that number up. Let's say you've bulked for 6 months, you've gained a fair bit of muscle mass, or you've gained, let's say you've gained 6 kilos. You're a 90 kilo male, you'll gain 250 grams a week, you've gained 6 kilos over the 6 months. All right, sweet. You look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, what do I want to do now? I feel a little bit fluffy, but I want to keep gaining, or I feel too fluffy, I don't want to gain anymore, all right? If you feel too fluffy and you don't want to gain anymore, you want to work on eating your new maintenance calories and staying there, all right? You want to stay there for about 1 to 2 months before you cut back down, because we want to solidify the muscle mass we've just had. We're going to teach our body this is our new set point, all right? Because our weight, we do have set point weights, right? We know that. We know we have set point weights. So we're going to sit between like a 1 to 3 kilo range. So if you get to this weight, eat at the maintenance calories here, by doing our equations again, based on the new weight, eat at our equations here. Then we're going to stay here for at least 1 to 2 months before we go into a deficit, because we want to solidify the muscle mass we've just had again. The longer we go into a deficit, the more likely we are going to lose that muscle mass we've just retained. Because we have, cycloplasmic, and we also have, there's another word I can't think of off the top of my head. We have 2 different types of muscle we're going to be gaining during this time. And so we want to make sure we're keeping it. So again, 1 to 2 months of maintenance, then going into a calorie deficit if you want to lose it all. If you're someone who's like, I want to keep gaining, but I need to lose a little bit of this body fat, then we go into an aggressive mini cut, all right? An aggressive mini cut is only 2 to 4 weeks long, and we're going to lose about 1% of our body weight a week. So let's say you were gaining, then you've plateaued, and you're like, okay, I'm at this point, I want to do a mini cut before I go back down. if you're eating 4,000 calories again, and you're 95 kilos now, you need to lose 1% of your body weight a week, you're going to go into about 1,000 calorie deficit a day. So drop by 1,000 calories, do that for 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to drop a fair bit of body fat, not as much muscle mass or hardly any muscle mass, because you've done a quick aggressive cut versus a longer term cut. You've lost that extra body fat, and then you can kind of go back into a surplus again. So this would be the best way to do it for a mini cut, right? So again, 1,000 calorie deficit, or whatever it's going to be, 1% of your body weight. And like I've talked about, roughly kind of equals 100 calories is going to be 90-ish grams. So if you're a female who's 65 kilos, you need to lose 1%. You're going to be in like a 650 calorie deficit versus a 1,000 calorie deficit if you're a male who needs to lose a kilo a week. Do that for 2 to 3 weeks. So you drop down that initial body fat, then we go back into a surplus. All right. So if you're in a 1,000 calorie deficit, find your new maintenance calories, then create the surplus again. Then we start going up in the right direction. So a mini cut is going to look like this. So like bulk, bulk, bulk. Let's say 6 months bulking, mini cut. 6 months bulking, mini cut. So you've done a year of bulking now. You gained a fair bit of muscle mass. Now you're going to maintain. Then you're going to do a long cut. Then you're going to be sitting at a new body weight with a large more majority of muscle mass. You could even do mini cuts more often if you like. Don't do it less than 3 months. You want to get at least 3 months of trying to gain before you get into a mini cut, all right? Because it's going to take time again just to create that muscle mass. And you may be like 8 weeks in or 6 weeks in, you're like, oh fuck, I feel fluffy, I feel like I'm gaining too much body fat. You're not. Trust me, if the scale's not going up by crazy amounts, which I've already told you shouldn't be, you're not going to be gaining that much body fat. Especially being an athlete, someone who's using the energy for exercise, there's going to be a higher chance of gaining muscle mass, right? So again, give yourself 12 weeks, then do a mini cut, or even longer, then do a mini cut, then keep gaining. But if you get to a point after 6 months and you're like, I don't want to gain anymore, solidify, maintain for 1 to 2 months, then go into a calorie deficit, go back down till you feel into a weight where you're confident at, and there you go. That is how you've created a surplus. That is how you've gained some muscle mass. This is going to take a lot of time, for it to happen. So do understand that it is a process. And I guess the overall goal for you is like asking, what is the outcome? Is it body composition? Is it actually a performance goal? Like, is it a sit in a new weight class? Is it just to be able to perform better? Because more muscle mass is going to help you perform better. Think about what the outcome's going to be to be able to get your end result. For me, going from 67 kilos up to 97 kilos, so I gained 30 kilos. Now I'm back down to 90. My goal was to get as big as possible. I wanted to get to 100 kilos. When I got to 97, I was like, oh fuck, I don't feel confident here at all. I feel too heavy, too thick, like I was unfit. And so I stayed at 97 for a month. Then I went back down, slowly cut back down to 90 where I feel confident at. This is good for me performance. This is good for my aesthetics. This is good for how I feel overall. I know what I want to be at, and the same thing has to be for you. Now, one thing I want to just note with you guys, me going from 67 kilos to 97 kilos and coming back down, I didn't gain all that muscle mass naturally. I was on testosterone replacement because I didn't have testosterone when I was younger. I wasn't diagnosed with it. I wasn't producing testosterone. So just want to put that out there. Like, I've gained, over 30 kilos at a time, like in over 2 years. But at the same time, I had puberty basically helping me because I didn't go through puberty properly. So don't expect that you're going to gain that much muscle mass. It's very impossible to be able to do that, basically, unless you are taking steroids. And I guess I would say if you are someone who is taking performance-enhancing drugs at all, you can kind of disregard a fair bit of what I say, and you can push the calories a little bit faster to gain muscle mass because you're on super physiological doses of testosterone and things in your body that are going to help you gain more muscle mass faster. So that's just something to take into consideration too. I am talking majority of natural people who are going to be watching this, but just in case you do take it, with you can actually gain muscle mass, predominantly way more muscle mass than your genetic potential because you have that exogenous testosterone coming into your body, so you can push those numbers higher. As always, guys, I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions or anything, make sure you let me know. And until next time, I'll speak to you then.